My name's Frank. Started working down for Harland in the late 50s, 1959. Well known for building the ill-fated Titanic. In those days, you worked a year down at the docks before you started your apprenticeship. My apprentice was an apprentice electrician in the main works, but I was stationed down at Gladstone Dock, which at the time was the largest dry dock in Liverpool, or on the Mersey, I think. It was a huge dock. And I started there more or less as a young boy, messages to and from the ships and things like that, you know. There used to be a foreman who would sit in his office and he would give me instructions to go and give to the charge hands on the ships, things like that. But it was so exciting being only 15, and I'm going on these big ships, you know, and all these grown-up men doing all these big jobs. I remember one occasion I went down there, and the ship was getting a refit, and I think the engine or something was coming out, and the exhaust pipes from the ship, they're very big, like sort of could be 2 or 3 foot in diameter, but they're all encased in probably asbestos coated, you know. But if they had to open up the exhaust pipe, because to get to the joint, they'd actually just chisel it all off, and you'd go in the engine room, and the light would be streaming through from the skylight, and it was like snow. In those days, they didn't really know the dangers of asbestos, but when you think back now, gosh, it would have been dangerous. Later on, it was not allowed. Everywhere would have to be screened off, specialist people brought in, like that. But in those days, it was hazardous, you know. And the other thing was you didn't have ear defenders neither. They didn't think, but lots of things you didn't have. You didn't wear specialist gloves, you know, for people, no riveters and things like that, where they'd be riveting. And of course, as we know now, you can get blanched fingers and from the vibration. That was not known. And later on, they all became, you know, claims for hearing claims and all sorts of different things, you know.
For most of us, life follows a rhythm. We wake with the sun, we eat when the day is bright, we rest when night falls. This daily cycle is more than routine. It is written into our biology, our hearts, our hormones, even the way our brains make decisions, all rise and fall with the turning of the earth. In 2022, 73% of UK workers reported that it was usual to work only during the day, leaving nearly 1 in 4 of us, 8.7 million people, living by a different rhythm, one that takes shape after the sun goes down.
I'm Chris, work for Jaguar Land Rover.
I'm Holly, I've been a bartender for 2 years.
I'm Karen and I worked as a nurse on nights.
So I've done night shifts from like 2015 up to 2024.
Earliest finish is like 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning.
I'd start at 9 and I'd finish at 8 the next morning.
Well, new tonight, if you or someone you know works the overnight shift, you know all too well the toll it can take on their health.
But tonight, there's new evidence of just how fast working the graveyard shift can impact your body.
Can use now. If you or anyone you know works the night shift, you might want to listen up. Not only is it an inconvenience, But there is new evidence that shows working that graveyard shift
is bad for your gut and bad for your brain. This according to a new study
published in Occupational and Environmental Medicine finds shift workers have a 9% increased risk for
diabetes, psychiatric disorders,
obesity, heart disease,
and stroke.
The brain doesn't
Could
really
night
adapt
shifts
to that.
have
Shift work is bad for the brain. Do you ever wish you worked daytime?
Yeah, all the time. Like, all the time. I feel like once you get onto night shifts, you kind of get stuck on them. And even though you know that it's not doing you any good, it's like you don't get off them. But, yeah, I have looked before into getting, like, different jobs, but I've never, like, gone through with it.
Yeah, it's right.
I thought if you're doing concert nights, which you never do, like every week, you can get some kind of routine, but because they're every 3 weeks, I found it hard to sleep on the first. So on the first day, I'd try and sleep until like at least 10 a.m. in the morning, because I knew I wouldn't really be getting much sleep until like 7 o'clock the next morning if they get me. Found that tough. And then coming off nights on the Thursday night, trying to go to bed like Friday, you just end up lying in bed.
Yeah.
You can't really sleep because your body thinks you should be back in work, but you got to try and get back into your sleeping pattern, which wasn't easy, like, to be honest. So it takes you a couple of days, the Friday and the Saturday, before you're back in your pattern, and before you know it, your weekend's gone. You know what I mean?
Just really, really tired and switching. Like, quite often when I was a student, we used to do 7 nights on and then a few off, and then you'd switch and do mornings or lates. And it was that constant change of your sleep pattern. I mean, I was a lot younger then, so I was more adaptable.
So how does it make you feel working nights?
A lot more tired than what I used to be. A lot more just like run down physically and mentally sometimes. I feel like I never used to be someone who got sick a lot, but I'm definitely catching more like bugs and colds than what I used to.
Yeah. Are you glad to be off them now then?
It was a kind of a catch-22, because obviously you work at night and you feel a bit rubbish, a bit moody and that. But then if you got up at like 12 o'clock, midday, 1 o'clock, you'd have the whole day to yourself then to do kind of what you want to do. Like the kids are in school or kids are in nursery, and everyone else is at work, so you got a bit of time to yourself. But on the other hand, you felt awful on nights, just generally tired and mood swings and stuff like that.
And because you're trying to get into a pattern as quickly as you can, so I would often get up after my last night by midday, so I'd probably have 2 or 3 hours sleep.
Right.
So that I'd be up by 12, so that by the time it came to that night time, I'd have a better sleep to get into a pattern more quickly. And I think a lot of people that work nights do that.
Buxton found that when short of sleep and sleeping off hours, even healthy volunteers soon showed an increase in their blood sugar, some to pre-diabetic levels.
Yeah, because you're constantly, you're tired all week, so I think your diet as well, you just end up eating more food than you need to, and then just not the best quality food. Your diet went out the window a little bit. You just could have things on the go and whatever's easy, you didn't really have time, or you couldn't be bothered to sit down and cook like a healthy tea or lunch, you know what I mean? So yeah, I did notice like you put on weight whilst working nights for that reason, like, you know what I mean? Just the constant just grabbing things on the go and just making it easy yourself, ready meals and stuff like that.
You don't eat properly because you've got no rhythm around set meal times. which obviously throws everything up in the air. I'm sure it didn't do me very good from a weight perspective, because you're eating so erratically.
Like diet-wise, there's not that many options for, you know, food that's good for you working nights. It's a lot of just like takeaways or like corner shop, like sandwiches and that. And so I've definitely put on a bit of weight since I started. Nothing like too crazy, but you know.
What we see is that shift workers have higher rates of obesity, higher rates of diabetes, but perhaps most frighteningly, cancer. And in fact, we now know the link between a lack of sleep and cancer is quite strong. Insufficient sleep is linked to cancer of the bowel, cancer of the prostate, cancer of the breast. And the association has become so powerful that recently the World Health Organization decided to classify any form of nighttime shift work as a probable carcinogen.
Any other negative effects from working nights?
I think with my social life, I don't really ever get to see much of my mates anymore outside of work, and I don't, you know, a lot of people that I've seen working night shifts, they'll go out with like the people that they work with, which is good, but I feel like it kind of adds on to that feeling like you're like trapped in night work, because they kind of become like your normal everyday friends, and like the people that you were mates with before, you only really ever get to see them like, you know, once every few months, or at least in my case.
Certainly we weren't given a choice, and a lot of people, to be fair, especially mums, choose to work nights because it fits in with childcare. But I don't think I've ever had had it highlighted to me. I probably had a little bit more knowledge just because I worked in the healthcare field. I knew it probably wasn't the best for me, but did an employer ever make me aware? No, not at all.
They didn't really warn you how you're going to feel, not like that. The only incentive you did have to do the night was you get a bit more money.
Yeah.
You know, for the night rate. You know what I mean? Which that's you go to work to get paid, so you think, well, a bit more money to work nights. You don't really take into consideration how you're going to feel after it. You know what I mean? Yeah, but no, the employer didn't really warn me how you're going to feel or how to cope with it. Not like that. No.
It's a 24-hour service, isn't it? You know, like I can't see any way around it. And as I say, a lot of people do it out of choice. If I'd had more information, would I have made a different choice? I don't know. I'd have been in a position to, but I think people do it as a lifestyle choice when they've got small families, and obviously there are services that need to run 24 hours, whatever the risk, I suppose.
I also feel like sometimes, like as good as it sounds, getting a day job, I think it would be really hard to snap back into having to be up early mornings every single day, since for the last 2 years I've been like completely nocturnal.
I was working at one time when a young man, he works for us, and he was due to go home. He was on the docks at the time. He was due to go home, and in those days you used to have what you call sacrificial anodes, and they were positioned around by the propeller, and what they did, they attracted the whatever chemicals or salt in the water to the anodes, and it prevented the propeller from getting corroded. Anyway, these sacrificial anodes, they're quite a lot of them, they're quite heavy, and he decided to lower them down the chute of the dry dock to the men down below. And we don't really know what happened, but he was lowering them down, and whether he got caught up in the rope or he just they pulled him over, we don't know, but he ended up going down the chute. He went down head first, you see, and of course the dock is like sort of 40 foot deep, so you can imagine the chute. He went down, and at the bottom of the chute there's like a gully that runs right round the dock, and that gully is like sort of maybe 2-3 foot deep all the way around. And as he come down the chute head first into the gully, unfortunately it killed him.
Yeah.
He was only a young married man with children, and he got killed. And he was only doing someone a favour. He'd actually finished work, and he said, "Yeah, I'll lower it down." And you know, from what I understand later on, his poor wife didn't get any compensation because he was doing something evidently that he wasn't instructed to do.